Hey there folks, this is Rambling Collector here, back with another book review for you all today. And for this video, if you haven't guessed by the title already, it's going to be a little bit more on the funny side, but also informative side. Today, we will be doing another indie work and talking about the book Will My Cat Eat My Eyeballs by Caitlin Doughty. I can't even just... Oh, if that is not an attention-grabbing title, I don't know what is, folks. I'm sorry. But every time I read this, I just think to myself, who named this and why? But funny enough, this is actually the first question that's answered in the book. But, okay, to give a little bit of backstory here, this book was in fact written by a mortician, but also another YouTuber. Funny enough. So Caitlin Doughty has experience when it comes to writing this book, which was a work of nonfiction. But let's go ahead and talk about more of that in the overall thoughts section, shall we? So first of all, I want to give some good positives about this book. It provides a simple and easy way to understand what happens to your body after death, answering many unique and in some cases hilarious questions listed throughout this book. The one that still gets me to this day, as a pure example, is, can we give Grandma a Viking funeral? And I'm just imagining these folks trying to shoot at their grandmother's wrapped up body with a flaming arrow on a boat, and for some reason it still makes me laugh. But, funny enough, I found out to my dismay that that whole flaming arrow deal on a boat, completely fake. And I was absolutely devastated to find that out. But funny enough, with Viking funeral pyres, they do them, but just not on a boat. They do them on land. So that definitely answered some good questions there. One of the more serious ones I noticed was, do conjoined twins always die at the same time? Conjoined twins is something you don't hear about often, but there is some unique qualities there. This book actually provided some unique answers, I should say, to the conjoined twins deal, how sometimes they operate together, how sometimes they are separated surgically at birth, though that can cause a lot of complications, and other interesting ideas. But the funniest one, in my opinion, was definitely, can I preserve my dead body in amber like a prehistoric insect? Which, when I saw that in the book, I absolutely was thinking, these folks wanted to do Jurassic Park, didn't they? Which the author answers this in all seriousness. So to all of you thinking you'll be able to preserve yourself in amber and come back years later on in a futuristic society because your DNA has been saved within this stone, unfortunately, you're out of luck. Sad, but true. But more than that, this book is filled with oddly hilarious illustrations and short chapters, making for an addictive and fast-paced read. So funny enough, I actually started this book right after I finished Razor 1-7 by Tom Clark. If you haven't seen the review for that yet, I will leave a link to it up here. But when I first started this thing, I thought I'd maybe get like halfway or something. What I was not expecting was for me to be so enthralled by this book and some of the facts that it was talking about that I wound up nearly finishing it the same day I picked it up. I was literally on the 170s in this book before I stopped because my brain was telling me, dude, go to sleep. Which at the time I was like, no, I need to know how it ends. But then as soon as I eventually decided, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and sleep on the rest of this. And then I finished it the next day. Not bad for a weekend if you ask me. But it just goes to show that the simpler writing of this story, the informative facts, as well as the presentation, I want to say, it in some cases can make you laugh or pique your curiosity. And I think that is a great strength for this book. It pulls you in with its facts and doesn't make things boring. I wish a lot more nonfiction books would do this because some of them are so jam-packed with so much detail and historical details and events and things like that, that the writing can sometimes be very stale. Caitlin Doughty breaks this by making it fun to learn this stuff whilst also answering some very key questions about dead bodies, what happens afterwards, and so many other things, while also adding a twist of a little bit of morbid humor. I like that approach. It works so very well. Anyways, let's move on to random thoughts, shall we? So oddly enough, for all you guys who are wondering about why I picked this book up, is because River is a friend of mine and they have recommended this book to me a few times. So I figured I would at least give it a chance, and I'm very glad that I did. But more than that, I was genuinely curious to learn about it because for the longest time, I have had both a fear as well as a strange curiosity about death. Because for a lot of folks, it's the final stretch. That's it. Your story's over. Plain and simple. But what happens afterwards? And there's more to this book than that. There's also explanations about mummies, if you haven't already studied ancient Egypt. There are certain questions that are answered for things such as how do corpses affect the environment? Or why do animals sometimes dig up human bones? Things like that. Some weirdly odd questions that might pop up in the back of your head from time to time. And it felt like a casual approach to this. I feel like that kind of approach to it, as well as why the author made this book, as a way to kind of teach kids about death, to help them be more prepared, not be so ill-prepared and fearful of it. Because while death is the final stage, I should say, the final thing of life, it's kind of important to know how it'll happen, what will happen afterwards, you know? I feel like the author wanted to do this, to provide a simple explanation for it. So all in all, I would recommend this book a lot, especially if you want to learn more about what happens to you biologically after death, as well as if you have some curious questions, such as, for instance, the light at the end of the tunnel is confirmed to be real. And that alone surprised me, because I did not realize that something like that could actually be real. But more than that, it also provides answers such as, again, mummification, can you bury your animals with you? Things that I did not expect increased my curiosity to want to learn more. But anyways, I think I'm rambling a bit here. Let's move on to the overall score. Overall, I feel comfortable placing Will My Cat Eat My Eyeballs at a solid 10 out of 10. It was informative, a fast-paced read at 212 pages, and overall, it kept me gripped from start to finish. If this book had been boring, for instance, I probably wouldn't have finished it as fast as I did. But the strange curiosity that it piqued in me is what made me want to keep going and going, even way past beyond the point where my brain was telling me to sleep. Overall, I do recommend this one. And at some point, I would like to do more nonfiction reads in the future, whether it's just biographies or factual ones, such as this. But if you guys are interested, I have read a lot more indie author works, most of them fiction, or, well, I should say a lot of them are fiction. But if you're curious, I will leave a link to that playlist right above. But more than that, if you're curious to see some of the other books that I've covered, both fictional and non-fictional, I will leave a link to that playlist right above as well. And once again, you guys, thank you so much for listening to this crazy man's ramblings. It really means a lot to me that you stick around to watch these and learn about some of the books that I've picked up. And I hope that some of these videos inspire you all to see some of these books for yourselves, and more importantly, support indie authors. A lot of them out there provide some excellent works that deserve more attention than they are getting. Don't believe me? See for yourselves. I promise you, you will not regret it. Once again, you guys, thank you so much for listening. This is Rambling Collector signing off for now. Have a great day, fellow readers.